storm, but I finally got here, and this is a beautiful building, and it's great to see you all, and it's great to be here. I do want to just introduce a few people, and then I'm going to have Bo Blevins, who is standing in today for Dean Lynch, who is not able to be here. And the person that you knew doing this before, Mary Biggs, she was not able to come. She, at the VACO lobby days, she fell out of her bed, and she really tore up her shoulder, and she's just had a number of problems going on, and so today she decided that she couldn't be here. She had some doctor's appointments, and then on top of that, tomorrow, she's a third grade teacher. Tomorrow she has math SOLs. Now if you know anything about SOLs, math and reading, those are the two key things. And so she's going to be ready to go with her third graders tomorrow. But we welcome you all, and we're so glad to have you with us. I would like to thank quite a few people before we get started. We want to thank the Franklin County Administration and the Franklin Senate people here for allowing us to use this facility. It is a great, wonderful little building and great facility. The following planning districts for working with VACO in developing this program for this evening, and I'm sure that if you've gotten your agenda, you can see that it's a great program. Okay, let's try Roanoke Valley. All right. Allegheny Regional Commission. Thank you. You want to tell us who you are?
Yes, I'm Jake Gilmer. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Development with the Regional Commission on Roanoke, and we're glad to take part in tonight's activities.
Okay, thank you. Then, Region 2000.
I'm Gary Christie, and you'll hear about me as part of the fourth presentation tonight.
Thank you. West Piedmont Planning District Commission.
I'm Dave Hoback, Executive Director. Good evening, everyone. Appreciate the invitation to be here and the opportunity.
New River Valley Regional Commission. I did not see our director or anyone here from that. I do happen to be on that. Kevin Bird is our executive director, doing a wonderful job for that. And we just changed our name, just as everybody else has. So we're no longer called the New River Valley Planning District Commission. We just call ourselves the New River Valley Regional Commission. And so if you see that, you'll know who we used to be. And then we do want to thank Nationwide for sponsoring and providing the refreshments. Then we have a number of VACO staff people with us. We also have some of our delegates and senators. And I'm going to ask Bo. Bo Blevins is a part of the VACO staff that's with us. And I'll let him tell you what he does and then introduce some other individuals.
Thank you, Annette. First of all, thank you all for being here today. This is our third regional meeting that we've done. We've previously been to Region 13 in Wise County and Region 12 in Wythe County. And so this is our third meeting, and it's certainly good to see such a turnout. We've had a great turnout at all of our regional meetings so far. And just so you all know, this is the beginning. This is where we start looking for the ideas, hearing from you of what legislative issues you want us to work toward as we head into the 2016 General Assembly session. This is sort of the beginning process. We come around, do our regional meetings, gather information, hear your discussion, hear what you're dealing with in your counties. We take that into August and start putting pen to paper, and starting with our first draft of our legislative program. And then, as some of you all may know, in November, we finish that program up, and our membership votes on it at our annual conference. I just want to, first of all, as Annette said, I want to introduce some VACO staff, first of all. Eric Johnston. Eric does economic and development lobbying, and he also does general government, which is things like broadband and public safety and conflicts of interest and other types of things. Larry Land environment and agriculture, and education issues. Gage Harder is here. Gage is our social media and communications director. He's our voice out there. He gets a legislative message out to you all. And I know if you were up here right now, he would encourage you all to go to our website and go to the legislative tab and go to regional meetings so you can go and see the discussion from other regional meetings. And also, eventually, what we discuss here tonight will be available on the website. I want to recognize our state legislators. We have Delegate Terry Austin, Delegate Charles Poindexter, Senator Bill Stanley's here, Senator Ralph Smith, and I think I've got everybody, right? Okay, good. We also have the Roanoke Times with us tonight, so thank you for being here. So again, tonight is the first step in our legislative process, and really looking forward for a good dialogue. As we go through our program, Gary's going to start off the next piece on economic development. Then we'll go into broadband. Eric Johnston will lead conversations with our state and federal legislators and the issues there. And then Larry will come up and finish up with the roundtable discussion. And we'll try to wrap up right around 9 o'clock. So thank you all for being here. And sure, please.
All right, thank you. I have just a couple more people. Charlotte, will you stand? Charlotte is our district director in District 10, which includes the Roanoke area. And you'll be hearing from her a little later on, I think when we get to the broadband issues. So thank you, Charlotte. And this is a unique thing for us, but it's good that District 10 and District 11 are together on this, and that makes it even better. Also, I want you to meet Gary Tanner. If you don't know him, but I suspect that most of you do know him. He's from mathematics, and he is the other director for District 11. Region 10, excuse me, and you're 11. I'll get it right. All right, Gary, thank you, and we'll go on with you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. I have the easiest job, but I also have to read a little bit. I'm going to introduce Ms. Sarah Capps. She's going to be our featured speaker. Sarah is the Grants Program Administrator for the Southside Field Office of Virginia Tobacco and Indemnification and Community Revitalization Commission. Sarah has a Bachelor of Science degree from Mary Washington College and an MBA from Averett University. She's worked with the Tobacco Commission for almost 7 years. Done good work too. Prior to working with the Commission, Sarah worked in Richmond for 6 years with state government, managing federal and state grant programs. This time was preceded by 8 years working in Fredericksburg area and Washington, D.C. In her role with the Commission, Sarah serves a region of 23 localities. She's been responsible for administrating over 500 plus grant awards under the Commission's agribusiness, economic development, education, special project, and research and development grant programs. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you everybody for the opportunity to speak to you. I recognize a lot of faces in the room. I've prepared a presentation in the last about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm going to run through it relatively quickly. There's a lot of content I wanted to try to share that I thought you'd be interested in. I'm planning to share with you information on the legislation that defines our mission and the distribution of tobacco commission funds. I'm also going to share some changes to our legislation. This is the 2015 tobacco legislation that makes changes to our commission. I plan to share some information on our education and economic development grants and the results that we have achieved from those programs. And then there's 3 specific programs that I just want to give you a little more information on so that you have a better idea of what we're doing in those areas to try to spur economic development. And those are our mega site program, our research and development program, and our agribusiness program. So the Tobacco Commission is a 40-county, it includes 40 localities, 34 counties, 6 cities, and as mentioned, my region is 23 localities. And the area in the teal color, it is the Southside region. It goes from Patrick County, east over to Greensville and Emporia, north up to Bedford County, and east over to Dinwiddie and Sussex. So that is the region that I serve. So the Tobacco Commission's mission, as defined in the original legislation, was to indemnify tobacco farmers and quota holders due to the adverse economic effects of the results of the loss of investment and production opportunities with the decline of the federal quota system. The second element of our mission was economic revitalization of the tobacco-dependent region. The distribution of funds was identified to be for compensation to the Virginia tobacco farmers, and this is what's referenced as the indemnification payments. Secondly, to stimulate the economic growth and development in the tobacco-dependent communities. And then a few years ago, there was a third item added to our legislation, and that was to allow for scientific research at UVA and ECU cancer centers to advance treatment and prevention of cancer. As of starting July 1st of this year, there's some changes that are resulting from legislation that the governor signed on Friday, and that signing of the new bill referenced as the 2015 tobacco legislation happened in Danville. First of all, it changes our name. So our new name will be the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission. It shortens it a little bit. I think folks will probably still continue to call us the Tobacco Commission, Virginia Tobacco Commission, but officially our new name will be the Tobacco Region Revitalization Commission. Some of the changes that are in this legislation, it reduces the size of the commission from 31 to 28 members. It also requires that 13 of those members have expertise in business, economic development, investment, banking, finance, and education. And then I have for you what that membership is comprised of. It includes 4 senators, 2 of which are here today, Bill Stanley and Ralph Smith, 6 delegates from the House of Delegates. It includes the Secretaries of Commerce and Trade, Finance, and Agriculture and Forestry, or their designee. There are 5 tobacco producers or active farmers that are members on the commission, representative from the Virginia Farm Bureau, and then 9 citizen members. As far as the changes in the legislation on the distribution of funds, the indemnification payments to the farmers is removed. We've fulfilled that aspect of our mission. The commission has paid out $309 million for 47,000 claims under that program, so we've completed that aspect of our mission. The legislation also, one significant change is it now requires at least dollar-for-dollar match on all of our grant programs. I displayed for you the grant programs. A number of our programs already had a requirement for one-to-one match, so nothing's changing for our education program or for healthcare projects or for the research and development grant program. All those programs previously required at least dollar-for-dollar match. But for our agribusiness and economic development and for regional initiatives and mega site projects under our special projects program, where they previously had a minimum match requirement of at least 10%, now those also require 50% match. A couple additional comments on changes that are part of the new legislation. It requires that we hire or contract with a financial viability manager who has to provide written recommendation on the financial viability and feasibility of all the projects before they issue the grant awards. And it also requires that we update revise our strategic plan biannually every 2 years. And we'll be receiving input from a number of state agencies as well as local and regional economic developers in that process. So this is where I wanted to share some of the outcomes from the Commission's investments to date. In the area of education, the outcome measure for that program is focused on increasing workforce credentials. So this is measured in terms of number of degrees, certificates, nationally recognized certifications. So we fund a 4-year scholarship program. There's been over 8,000 recipients of those scholarships. We also support grants to the community colleges to support 2-year scholarships, 2-year financial aid awards. We've had 15,000 recipients of those funds. And then under other grants that support regional GED initiatives, we've supported over 12,000 residents in getting their GED credentials. In addition to that, our project grants in the area of education have advanced dozens of academic programs. Most of those grants go to community college. However, the public and private colleges in our footprint also benefit from those grants as well. Under economic development, the primary outcome measures are job creation and private capital investment. The Commission, since 2007, has had 15,000 new jobs committed by private employers. We've had $3 billion in new private capital investment committed also since 2007. There's been 3,000 miles of broadband fiber constructed, and then 80 industrial parks have been constructed or expanded. And within those 80 industrial parks, that includes 8 megasites. So this is where I want to talk about our megasite program a little bit. The megasite program is think of a normal industrial park supersized. And it's intended to attract a major employer to the area. How do you define a major employer? We're looking for this to create at least 400 new jobs and at least $250 million in private investment. A megasite should be able to accommodate at least 1 million square foot of manufacturing on a pad for the company. It's targeted to aerospace, automotive, heavy machinery, and other global advanced manufacturers. The Commission has committed $100 million to this program, and we've supported the development of 8 megasites. And this map shows the location of those megasites starting on the western side of the state. There's one in Washington County, Smith County, Wood County, Carroll County, and then towards the center of the state, Commonwealth Crossing in Henry County, Berry Hill in Pennsylvania County, and then east over to the Mid-Atlantic Advanced Manufacturing Center in Greensville and the Sussex County megasite. Just a couple slides on the 2 megasites in this Baker region area. The one at Commonwealth Crossing in Henry County, it's 726 acres. There are 2 tracks that are currently being graded. One is a 120-acre rail served site, and the other is a 50-acre site, and those are expected to be graded by January. The second is Berry Hill megasite. This one is the one in Pennsylvania County. It's 3,500 acres, which makes it the largest industrial park in Virginia and the 5th largest on the East Coast. The first phase of construction is for grading of a 217-acre pad, and that would be able to accommodate a 3 million square foot building. The next program that I wanted to share information with you on is our Research and Development Grant Program. The outcome measures for this program are focused on job creation and private capital investment during the research phase of the project and then during commercialization. So the goal is that if the project is successful, it will go on to commercialization, and that's where we'll really see the job creation occur. The program does require a business plan, and there's an external review and vetting process. And this is designed to bring science, engineering, technology, new jobs to our region that otherwise wouldn't be here. The primary sectors that this program is targeted to is energy, biomedical and healthcare, information technology services, materials and chemicals, and clean energy and the environment. The grant terms, the minimum grant award under this program is $250,000, and the maximum grant award is $2 million. It does require at least dollar for dollar match. The Tobacco Commission funds do have to be spent in our region. And in terms of intellectual property, that's a big foundation for a lot of the projects. We do look for any intellectual property, patents, licenses, etc., to be disclosed in the grant application. That content is protected from FOIA, from the Freedom of Information Act. For anybody in a locality where you think you know somebody where they might have a project that could qualify for this program, if they do have intellectual property, if they've got some patents or exclusive licenses that will allow them to have a competitive advantage did just generate a list of some of the example R&D projects that we have been funded previously, and 3 additional ones that are expected to be approved next week, just to give you an idea of the types of projects that have been successful under this program. One is a mid-IR fiber optic project, so that's fiber that's used in lasers for military applications, and then that can also have applications in microscopes and a whole number of other products. Engineered biopharmaceuticals, referenced as bio. It's a freeze-dried inhalant. They can freeze-dry pharmaceuticals that have a longer shelf life. Titan Biosciences, they're growing tobacco-forward sugars to determine the biodiesel. Light sheets, it's energy-efficient, low-cost LED light. It's that project's in Bedford. TMI Autotech has a new high-performance vehicle that they are creating, and with that, they're developing a composite manufacturing capability in Halifax County. So, and then there's 3 additional ones that were expected to be approved. They're recommended by the R&D committee. They should be approved on Thursday. One is for an autonomous water vehicle, referenced as a datamarine, kind of like a catamaran, but it's a datamarine to collect data on ocean floors. Another is a plastics packaging company, Synergy Packaging Systems, that has an innovative lid that allows them to create packages that can replace cans. And then nanotouch materials, as a 5th generation nanoseptic surface that kills germs when you touch the surface. And the last program that I wanted to share content with you on, this is our agribusiness grant program. The reason I'm sharing this is we're putting a little extra effort in promoting the agribusiness program this year. Sometimes it takes a little extra work to get good projects, and we're focusing on that this year. I think it's a good opportunity for the program to be here. The primary focus of the agribusiness program, and this is recognizing that a lot of our counties are very rural, and land is certainly an asset that we can't forget about, and the agriculture is a big part of our local economies. So the primary emphasis on this program is on increasing net farm income. The priorities can include transitioning farmers to alternative crops, improved production techniques, expanding market opportunities, value-added products. Some of the types of projects that have been supported under this program in the past is there's a commodity storage facilities cost share program. So if you have a neighbor who just constructed a very large hay barn, then we may have cost shared in that facility. There's been a project for expanded berry production, growing edamame, aquaculture in farm ponds. We've equipped a commercial kitchen in Contemporary County, etc. So the reason I wanted to share this, we are planning for an agribusiness project development workshop. This is, if you know of any folks that may be interested in attending, I will be sharing information on this with all of the localities and all the folks on my contact list, but I encourage you to do the same. It will be Tuesday, June 30th in Mecklenburg County at the Estes Center, so it's in Chase City. I'm already aware of some of the projects I've already had discussions on. I'll give you an idea of some of the ideas that are out there that we're hoping to develop into full proposals. Part of the reason of the value of doing the project development workshop is the commission wants to fund regional initiatives, so we have to help bring folks together to make them regional. One of it is for a vineyard expansion project to expand the number of vineyards in the Southside region. A phase 2 of the berry project, so trying to expand the acreage in small fruits. A Southern Virginia produce marketing and branding project. A value-added agribusiness entrepreneurship support project, and then a pilot lime application project for extremely poor soils. Those are just some of the ones I know of. I'm hoping that I have a half dozen more that come as well. So thank you for your time this morning, or this evening, and I think someone asked about posting it.
Yeah.
We're going to post all 3 presentations tonight on the website, and we'll email it out there.
Thank you.
supervisors from Franklin County. Thank you for coming tonight. And Dan O'Donnell is one of our Gwinnett County assistant administrators. Welcome. Before I introduce our guest speaker, I'd like to just take a few moments to mention a couple of things as to why I think we need to continue the conversation on broadband. We focused in the past a lot about putting infrastructure in more industrial sites, and now that we're in the world of technology, we need to really focus on getting broadband out to our rural areas. We have a lot of entrepreneurs and business people, small business owners who live in rural areas and they do not have access to the internet. It really puts a bad, efficient work program for them because they can't get on the internet, they can't Google, they can't research, they can't do payroll. There's a lot of things that they are really prohibited in doing. So I think that we need to focus on putting infrastructure into our rural areas. Also, it does affect education. We have in Gwinnett County, our schools give laptops to our school students to take home to do their homework on. When these children who do not have internet access at home come to school the next day without their homework, they are put at a real disadvantage. Not to mention, when the more they are on the internet, they do their homework, they Google, they email their friends, however they practice with using that internet access, it's going to put them at a bigger advantage when they go apply for a job. So these are just a few of the challenges that we have, and I would also like to just add that Gwinnett County's had really good success with private-public partnerships, and our latest one being with on stormwater issues. So it is my pleasure to now introduce our guest speaker, Sandy Terry, who said, do not introduce me and say all of this, but I do want to say that just a couple things about her. Prior to joining the CIT in 2012, Sandy was the Information Technology Director for Franklin County, where she led efforts to form a public-private partnership to expand broadband services in Franklin County. So thank you so much for joining us today, Sandy, and keep what you have to say.
Okay, thank you. It is not about me. It's about the red. It's absolutely a critical piece of infrastructure. Healthcare, education, public safety, economic development. It's the whole gamut. We can't afford to not have it. And precision agriculture. So when you're talking about farmlands, there's a lot of great stuff people are leveraging wireless technology for on those farms to make everything more efficient. In January, everything's a blur. I think it was January, into January, early February, the FCC changed the definition of broadband. No longer 4 down and 1 up, but 25 down and 3 up. How many people in this room have 25 by 3 at your home? Okay, vacant guys. I just moved up to 6 meg, so I live what, I eat what I talk about. This is what Virginia looks like now based on the new definition. Red's not good, orange is not good, yellow is like, that's when the doctor's going to start talking to you about medication. And the worst thing is, I've spent a couple of years giving disclaimers every time I show a map. Here's Franklin County. Charles, we know Franklin County is not greening when we're talking about broadband. So not only does this look bad, but reality is even worse than what you're seeing. What this map is, the way we did this, thank God I've got a little artist in me, and so I'm visual, and I had the mapping guys take the data based on households, not population, but households, what percentage of households have access to fixed broadband, meaning not cellular, not satellite, but fixed broadband at the 25 by 3. So, and it's way worse because this map was created under the NTIA ERA-funded state broadband initiative, the rules were set by the feds that allowed the providers, if they served one address in a census block, they could paint that block as served. And when you get into rural areas, those census blocks are much bigger, so they're even worse overstated. What's happened at the federal level, those state broadband initiatives, every state was collecting data from the providers, and then we generated a map and shipped it to the feds. That's changed. ERA-funded SBI, State Broadband Initiative, is over with. Now the broadband providers are grouped in with telecom providers in providing data directly to the FCC via a new modified 477 form, which means nothing to you other than those new rules allow them to overstate service even more. So if a provider runs a fiber to a cellular tower out in the country, they're going to mark that census block as served. That's even worse than the data behind this map. So, as of last fall, my statement to people is this is probably the last data as good as it gets for a long time. And you all know if you're doing anything, you've got to be able to put something on paper. You've got to know where you are to know where you need to get to. So, some data is better, don't want a heavy sigh. Some data is better than none. Our thing that we're trying to push to all localities is this tells one little piece of the story. But there's a lot more that we have to do to get the whole picture. So at the federal level, they changed the definition. They also took the program officers that led that state broadband initiatives, and they are now scavenging through everything all the states did to pull out the best practices and the best models, and then their intent is to provide technical assistance directly to the localities. Haven't seen a model with the feds helping the localities directly, so I'm pretty sure they're going to have to go through state people to help. And that group is now called Broadband USA. So the good part of that is there was a lot of good work done over 4 or 5 years across this nation, and I think that shouldn't be just forgotten. So the good thing is that will be shared. They have pushed out one document this year, and it's about public-private partnerships, and it was very well put, and we can hook you up. It's on our website, wired.virginia.gov. I should have brought some buttons. The other thing is they formed another body called the Broadband Opportunity Council, and they're charged with figuring out what federal policies or processes could be modified to remove any barriers, to make it easier. The best thing we can do, everybody in this world, is to make the deployment of broadband quick, cheap, and easy. Technology advances are going to help that, but broadband got here much quicker than we had time to think about the policies and the franchise agreements and the processes that we put in place many years ago for completely different technologies. So we have an onus on us to revisit those, just like the FCC may be doing with their regulation regarding broadband providers. We need to do that at the federal level, at the state level, and at the local level. Because whether you build it, whether the private sector builds it, whether the state builds it, whether the feds build it, needs to be cheap, quick, and easy. So the Broadband Opportunity Council is doing that at the federal level. At the state level, that would be us. We continue to work with localities. I've recently put together a document that I'm hoping will help localities in the clarity on the breadth of broadband, the options of how you can facilitate expansion, and the desire is that Board of Supervisors can get clarity on all this, have some honest discussions, and decide what each locality, how they want to facilitate broadband expansion, and then what are their goals, and prioritize those goals so that they have a clear path forward. In the few years I've been doing this, beyond my experience with Franklin County, I was just telling Charles earlier, every locality is similar. You have different personalities, but you have the same challenges. And I've seen that because broadband touches every single thing, because it's technical, because it's expensive, and because you have to have it, it's pretty overwhelming. And it's not overwhelming for me, but it's very frustrating, because I wish I could give people a single answer, but it's not that easy. So, at the state level, we're continually trying to develop resources and information and guides and advice and our services, however we can help. Additionally, we staff the Broadband Advisory Council. And I'm not shy from the challenge, so I kind of let the chairperson of the council know in March that here's an agenda for the year, and here's topics for every meeting, and my goal is to march that council to the end of the year armed to go into the General Assembly in 2016 with whatever the state can do to help make things easier. At the local level, you have the same challenges. You have your own permitting processes, you have your own zoning ordinances, tower siting, which that's been a hot topic. You know, there's opportunities to look at your internals and figure out how do you make it cheap, easy, and quick. Because we all have to do that at every single level. We can provide recommendations for policies. The other thing is, besides deciding what's important, how involved the locality wants to be, getting your house in order, as Secretary Karen Jackson would say, in regards to your policies and processes, is also understanding what you need versus what you have today. Broadband, especially in the rural areas, was built out of cable TV and telcos delivering DSL. And none of that infrastructure was initially planted with broadband in mind. So I'm not taking up for them, but we have facilitated monopolies, and that's just a fact of life. They know it, we know it. But on the other side of the game, regulations are changing, and they're kind of stuck with some infrastructure that wasn't designed to do what it's doing today. And you know, they're getting money taken away, and I'm not going to talk about how much it's gone through them. But anyway, there's a whole other book written about that. But we all have to work together. Whether you want to form a broadband authority and try to build your own, that's fine, but you can't divorce those incumbents. They have a lot of that last mile infrastructure, and it's important that we try to partner with everybody and get along and figure out how to accomplish this together. I agree with the FCC chairman, competition needs to be in there. And that fixed wireless partnership we did 10 years ago is a good way to introduce some competition and get past that heavy wireline last mile infrastructure. And I can provide more information about that. So when I say what you need today and what you need tomorrow, a lot of times I think localities look at these maps or more granular down to local level and say, well, we don't have any service in this neighborhood, or in the north part of the county we don't have any service or limited service. But we need to go beyond that. We need to look at how are you connected to the rest of the world. Where is fiber running into your county and running out? Because your public safety centers, we've always talked about needing redundancy. Redundancy meaning I don't have just one provider, I've got two. So if something happens to this one, my 911 center doesn't go down. We now look at redundancy for schools, hospitals, big businesses, because time is money. But it's not going to be long before we're going to be thinking about redundancy in the residential areas. There's a lot of home businesses in today's world because of the way the world is. I telework. We've got to get people off the streets. We've got to telework. It's better quality of life. And I can tell you I'm way more productive than I was with people knocking on my door in the office. But there are days that I've had some outages, and I thought, oh, you know, maybe I need to connect with my cell phone and make sure I've got some backup. That's gonna start happening more and more in this world. I say this every time I present, and I'm sorry, but this is just me. I grew up with the Jetsons. I want the robot Navy nurse. I think in-home monitoring and healthcare, we can't imagine what that's going to be like. There's a shortage of doctors. There's those people that are aging. We're going to need to leverage technology to streamline that healthcare and to lower those costs. That means you're going to have more bandwidth at home than you have today. The Internet of Things. I would love, when I'm too old to go to the store, that something's connected to my fridge, and my almond milk's out, and somebody's going to knock and deliver it. Or somebody knows my pills are running out, and somebody's going to pump it into my little robot nurse. Connectivity is the only way to get there. So we've got to look at how does your locality connect? Where's that big fiber coming from? And do you have more than one provider? Do you have redundancy? Build an infrastructure. I can't imagine a locality that's not going to have to build something. Whether it's towers, whether it's pieces of fiber, you've got to help, and you're going to have to contribute. But everybody wants to keep their costs low, so the only way you can do that is through partnerships. But you got to look at this whole picture. You got to have conversations with your healthcare providers, with your schools, with your large businesses, even your small businesses that may be on the brink of becoming large. You've got to look at build a group of stakeholders. Say, what are your plans? What's your strategic plan? How much bandwidth are you going to need? How much bandwidth are the schools going to need? Pull that all together. That's going to tell you from a local level, how much is your county going to need in the future? And is there enough big pipes coming in today? If there's not, you need to start figuring out how you're going to negotiate that. So it's not just how you feel, how do you get DSL or cable to these people that don't have it, or how do you get fiber into your industrial park. You got to look at the whole picture for the future. It's just like we do strategic planning to make sure we're positioning ourselves for the future. We've got to do that for broadband. That's even more overwhelming. When you're looking at the needs of today, the one thing I encourage people to do is know where your unmet demand is. Unmet demand are the people that need broadband today and cannot get it. They're the ones that call the local government. They're the ones that are raising their hands, screaming, and trying to get the service. We are on the brink, through our partners at Virginia Tech, launching a new tool, because I don't believe in reinventing wheels. So anything that we can stand up that every locality can leverage is what I'm trying to do. We have a citizen survey online. We can give you a printed copy. The other thing is how to capture unmet demand. So we're going to launch a site here pretty soon. And anytime you want a campaign or just point your constituents to it, they can log their name and address. And it'll be a way to capture that. Because once you start figuring out what role you want to play and what you want to accomplish, one of the things you want to accomplish is get the people access that need it today. So you got to know where they are. And if you run that campaign, leverage our tool, we'll give you maps, whatever. It's just to keep everybody from recreating. Citizen surveys are huge because I know a lot of rural localities don't do business licensing. And some of the localities that have done these citizen surveys have been pretty shocked at how many home businesses are out there. So it's really important to capture that information and a lot of other information, including who's ready, digital ready. Because when we talk about digital divide, there are specific things that keep people from getting online. It can be fear of being online, their security, identity theft. It can be the cost. It can be they don't have a computer. Cost can not just be the cost of access, but also the cost of the computer. It can be that they don't think it's relevant, and believe it or not, we've got small, medium businesses out there that don't think it's relevant to their business, and that we need to be mentoring those people. But that's about adoption and awareness. So even if you get your county all lit up with good infrastructure connecting you to the internet, you're still going to have some portion of your population not getting online. That's a digital divide. When you talk about education and the students, There are counties that call us every day that are ready to roll out digital learning technologies, but they have significant subsets of their student population that they know don't have access at home. So now the schools are built. So you've got to look at that whole picture, surveys, capturing that unmet demand, talking to your community stakeholders, identifying your needs today and tomorrow. You telling me, because you just need to let me know. This is like a fire hose. You have to do all of those things. That's kind of a package that we're putting together that we'll be sharing through the PDCs and NACO to help localities set their path forward. It's not easy. We all arrived here at the same time, not prepared for the technology. And I'm a geek, but I'm still living in a world where, you know, broadband is not everywhere. And you can't just sit back and think that the providers are going to deliver it, because they're going to go where the money's the richest. And the rest of it, they're not. We've got to help look at that. Do I believe in municipal networks? Well, I think we're all going to have to build a little something. If we've got a neighborhood of 800 people 2 miles down the road and that doesn't meet the franchise agreement, well, maybe it would behoove the county to build 2 miles of fiber and help connect those people, and then make that fiber open access and create a little competition. We're all about helping and developing tools and resources to help you. So wired.virginia.gov, Sandy Terry, CIT, and I think I've hit it all. Questions or comments or silence?
Thank you, Sandy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Same question.
Basically, you know, I've had this discussion like years ago with you. You know, when the feds was handing out money, building fiber, and all it did was build fiber on top of it, and still hadn't addressed the real problem. And that is what I call the last mile, and that's service to the customer. I use my little calculator as that. That's 35 hours. Broadband is one of them.
That's not the last mile. And if you look, even where Mid-Atlantic broadband is, there's a lot of red.
You got three. It crosses all through South Virginia. Yes, it's red because there's no
Last mile.
last mile. It's like having a super highway with no offset.
Absolutely.
And basically, we've already did 4.5 to 7 years. And the state to come up with these little ideas, and that little idea, nothing works. But I think you get to the point now when you go to the communities, you go to the counties and see what they need, which we've already done in our county. Number one, you get up your information. And we had a broadband, and then the Governor Warren was in office. I think he started, helping broadband. But until the politicians figured out it was in their best interest to promote broadband, they were all against it. 7 years ago, when I talked to a politician about
Well, that's all changed, for sure.
broadband, some didn't even know what it was.
That's all changed.
I know that, but I'm just saying 7 years ago, we've come a long way educating politicians. Which I'm not a politician, I just don't want to sit there.
I'm not a politician.
And I could go on and on about broadband, but all those bridges have been burned. We still just.
And you know, that there are things that we're talking about at the state level, but the reality is it falls on local shoulders, because it is that last mile. I mean, the state doesn't have the money to go and build last mile in every locality. How would they even prioritize that? And I hate to say that, because I help local governments, but it really does fall.
We're fed wasted enough money on this last broadband thing.
Oh, don't get me started.
To cover the whole United States. And it's still sad today that the United States is about 37 in countries that supply broadband to the citizens. We're like a third world country when it comes to broadband. And sick of it myself. I've worked hard for 7 years along with
I'll be
that.
happy to put these shoes on your feet and let you walk around.
I know, and you have too. And you know, like I said, we've won another great.
I can give you a path forward. But, I mean, it has to come from the local level.
Exactly, that's what I said
It really
7
does.
years ago.
It really does.
Are we where we were in 1935 with like rural electrification, when we had to pass the Rural Electrification Act to get rural homes electrified?
I wasn't here in 1935, but, I think it's similar in, you know, some of what's going on at the federal level, like, we've had Universal Service Fund, I hate to talk behind people, Universal Service Fund, which has helped deploy landlines into the rural areas. And the whole concept behind that is everybody pays into it to help subsidize that high cost. They are splitting some of that out for broadband, and that's the Connect America Fund. The incumbents don't like the rules, and they're not really partaking, so they're doing some experiments, and then it's going to open up to some other people. The reality is, the cable companies and the telephone companies are the only ones that own the wire to the house. But now, fixed wireless served us well in Franklin County. It's still there 10 years later. It's the only way I was able to get service to the house that my husband and I moved to last August. Google has looms, and they figured out how to flow those around and shoot a signal down. And not like satellite, because they're not as high, but they're above the airline stuff, whatever that is. We don't know what technology is going to do. I am a little hesitant to say, oh, yeah, we ought to go out and string wire to every house, because I think wireless is going to eliminate that need. And it's much less costlier than when there's new technology, you just swap it out. But we can't predict that. But we do have to have big pipes coming in. We need to leverage the infrastructure that's there, and the only way we can do that is through partnerships. And I will tell you that I've sat in enough meetings with the incumbents that, meetings they were invited to, and I just showed up, and they take a beating. Now, do they deserve it? Yeah, they probably do, and there's books written about it. But that arguing that's not doing anybody any good. The good stories are when there's a locality that needs to light something up, and they call the incumbent, and they say, how can we do this? And everybody puts in a little money.
Thank you, Sandy, and we will wrap up at the end to go into depth around the table about these big topics that are brought up. But appreciate you. I'm Eric Johnson, part of the Baco Lake lobbying team. Sandy has been a partner with Baco on the broadband since she was in Franklin County, working with Board of Supervisors members, such as Delegate Poindexter in the back, and has been really helpful with the technical assistance. The Department of Housing and Community Development also has been helpful. They have a grant program out that Baco lobbied for. We appreciate the General Assembly and Governor providing the planning grant to help localities start to do some of the pieces or go along the path further with.
And you need to have a plan even if you don't have any money to go beyond the plan, because if you have a plan and money opportunity, or funding opportunities, now you're ready to go.
So we're gonna transition to the next part of our agenda, and I'm gonna lead that piece with talking with our delegates and senators. But before we do that, we did neglect to do just introduce everyone around the room, where you're from, your name, just make sure we before they speak, get to know who's in the room. So to start with Bo, go ahead to this table.
Bo Blevins, Baco.
Annette Perkins, Director, and from Montgomery County, Plattsburgh.
Gary Christian from Region 1000 Lynchburg, and my wife Fran.
I'm Isaac Sarver. I'm from Senator Warner's office out front.
Carl August, interim county administrator with Bedford County.
Gary Tanner, Board of Supervisors, Appomattox.
Susan Adams, County Administrator, Appomattox.
Jeff Taylor, economic development,
Very awesome.
Kelly Colbeck's from Douglas,
Go ahead. Jake Gilmer with the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission.
Charles Wagner, member of the Franklin County Board of Supervisors.
Broken.
Charlotte Warner, Roanoke County Board of Supervisors, and I'm represent Region 11 in Baco.
Dan O'Donnell, Assistant County Administrator in Roanoke County.
Ralph Smith, Virginia Senate.
Larry Graham, Baker.
Sarah Cousins, Franklin.
James Sneed, Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors.
Barksdale, Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors.
Brenda Bowman, Chairman, Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors.
Dave Hoback, West Piedmont Plan.
Roger Hayden, Vice Chair, Patrick County Board of Supervisors.
Angie Hall, Congressman Morgan Griffith's office. Carmen Foreman, the Roanoke Times. Feel like I don't fit in. Navarro with Curiosity's office.
Richard Kraus with Delegate Les Adams.
Senator Bill Scammon.
Gage Harder Bingo.
Senator Robinson with Nationwide, but from Mathematics. Welcome, y'all.
Thank you, everybody, and really appreciate you have a great turnout from your elected leaders at the state and some representatives from the federal level. I can tell you when we were working with your board of directors members for VACO planning this event, talking about economic development, broadband, transportation, I think the topics that they wanted covered from hearing from you all for this meeting. I can tell you, us in the lobbying team here who enjoy representing you in Richmond said, the delegates and senators coming here, we've seen them lead on these issues in General Assembly sessions. I can tell you, just from working on a day-to-day basis, that the issues you brought forward are the main issues we've worked with them on. And of the four we have here, the two former Board of Supervisors members, former mayor, and a senator who's been a key leader in economic development, Senator Stanley. So they have and served on local government committees, so we have a wealth of local government experience with these members. And the idea that we had for this session was to have them say a few words about some of what they're working on and some of their efforts in the General Assembly. And I know that they asked to be here during this time, and you all will be talking about your legislative priorities later on today. The last piece I wanted to mention is that I can tell you as well, unfunded mandates are a perennial issue for us, and these delegates and senators in the room get that. They've been working with us in the various committees, whether it be county, cities, and towns, the money committees, rules, etc., to recognize the fact that that's an issue that affects your citizens, affects your local tax rates, and they have been champions and stalwarts for that in the General Assembly. So if we had more like those that represent you, we would be doing even better in the General Assembly session. So I want to thank them for being here and for being strong partners with counties and VACO. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce them and give them a few minutes to say a few words. So first, Senator Ross Smith, I want to introduce you first, and Chairman of the Local Government Committee in the Senate, and been a champion. Thank you for being here.
How few minutes? Tell me, because I don't want to encroach on others.
We're thinking about 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay, right. Well, thank you, and most of you are aware that I am serving on my last term as a member of the Virginia Senate. I have prepared a young man for the past 8 years has been my legislative assistant, and he's on the campaign trail tonight, and the hope is that he'll be there for you. And most of you that are in my district have gotten to know him because he's pretty much on top of some of our problems for us there. And I sat here, I was the person who formulated the regional summit, which was now called Mayors and Chairs of Roanoke City and outward. Some of you members who participated. But that first meeting we did in 2001, January 2001, we brought for the first time, no one had done that, 46 elected officials, local, state, and federal officials, to talk about how we partnered together. Delegate Austin, Delegate Poindexter, Senator Stanley will tell you about there's a whole lot more population on the other end of the state in the areas we're not. And we have to team together to get success. I am probably been more critical of government than certainly I was when I was mayor of Roanoke City and possibly in the General Assembly. And in being so critical and sometimes difficult to work with down there, they might say, have you ever been elected? Well, I ran a business. I started a business small and grew a bit. 40 years. And you learn about the needs of customers. You learn about the needs of employees. And sometimes when we in government come together it's everybody's aspiration to make your county a little darker on that thing. It's a big push to do it. But stop and ask the price. Who pays for it? You pay for it in the end. And there are areas, there are areas represented by all here that do not have a super Walmart. They don't have a fast food because it's market numbers. And when you have a density of 4 or 5 potential customers per square mile, like some areas, that's the area, and that is what's the cost. I know we all want it, but that is, what is the cost? And how can we have that infrastructure where the schools are, where your central business area is, if we're going to spend it huge dollars on another place. Anyway, I enjoyed my time finishing up. I will be a senator until January. Being chair of the Senate Committee on Local Government, I'm going to recommend a person in the room to take my gavel in that, and I think he's in the running for being the next chair of local government, Senator Bill. He's awfully quiet in the corner over there, but anyway, that's what we can do. You look at the numbers when you want to sell you something here. Yes, we all wish we could have it, and just like we have 110 and 220 electricity in virtually 99.99% of households in the state now, and we will be there in time. Markets will drive it, markets will fix it for us if we'll let it. Be kind to those markets. That's what pays our taxes, spends our money. Thank you for having me here.
Next, I want to introduce Senator Bill Stanley. He has been a champion on economic development. I know the first time I came to BACO, I saw him championing an industrial authority program, and since then I've seen him in the halls of General Assembly working that issue. So thank you for being here, Senator.
You know, they say in vaudeville, never follow a dog act, an animal act, or Ralph Smith. But thank you for having me here. You're the political animal there, Ralph Smith. Ralph is right. I've had the privilege of serving on the Local Governments Committee. And I looked down the line when he announced he wasn't going to be running again, and I noticed everybody else had a chairmanship except me. And so, Ralph, I'd ask you to run, maybe consider running again, not leaving the Senate. But I have enjoyed being on that committee a great deal because I'm of the philosophy that local government is the best government. The government that governs at that level governs better. And sometimes I'm reminded in Richmond that we sometimes get an attitude when it comes to you that my father used to lovingly say to me, when I want your opinion, I will give it to you. That's what I think sometimes we do in Richmond, is that when we want your opinion, we'll give it to you, rather than letting you tell us. What Ralph is saying, though, is also right. We are extremely focused on economic development, and that has been my benchmark since we started. And you work tirelessly. And I come from a perspective where I lived in Virginia Beach in the early 70s. I lived in Northern Virginia in the late 70s. My dad was in the Navy, so we moved around. My family was from here. And when I was in Virginia Beach, there was nothing there. Military Highway was a 2-lane road. I think there was one stoplight. When I moved to Northern Virginia in 1978, the #1 industry in Northern Virginia was dairy. Dairy. But here, tobacco textile manufacturing. We led the way. We were the economic driver and engine that fueled the coffers for the revenue, the tax dollars that helped those areas grow. And yet, when I got to Richmond, having seen this, having now lived in all these areas, because when I came down here to see my family in the 70s, this was the place. It was hot. With NAFTA and CAFTA, we've seen a change, a sea change. And now when you get to Richmond, you see the delegates and senators from Northern Virginia who will sit there and act like they built the state. And we constantly, whether it's Charles, Terry, or myself, remind them that we built the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're not looking for a handout, we're looking for a hand. We were the agrarian rural area. We were the tobacco region. We were where manufacturing, textiles were. That economy's changed. And what we're finding now in Richmond is the tax revenues, while they now come from Northern Virginia and the Tidewater area, there is peril in the future because they are almost entirely dependent on the federal government for revenues, for jobs, for programs, for businesses that locate there that derive their revenues from the federal government. What we do have, even though we may have a color chart here that may not be so impressive, is that we are ready because we are already diversified. We work very hard in the Tobacco Commission for advanced manufacturing, workforce training. We're trying to put it out there so that we're getting ahead of the curve of what will be the next renaissance in manufacturing. They have no such plan. When you see investments by the Tobacco Commission for these items, for these workforce training, for these long-range plans for your community college systems, now we're trying to get into the high schools where we're getting these students together. We do it for one reason, because we've been spending our tax dollars, local and state, at $140,000 to educate one pupil here. And that's a great investment, except our money goes somewhere else because they haven't been able to find the jobs here. All of this has been long-term. This is not a sprint. It is a marathon, and you all should tell us how to do it. We should work in a partnership. One of the things that I'm finding now, as the chairman of a committee that I formed through legislation for I-73. Have you all heard of I-73? Haven't we all? Wouldn't it be great? We formed this committee, thank you, Senator Smith, for forming it in the local government, to devise a strategy for building this road that it built, which comes through this area right here, would create a minimum of 43,000 good-paying jobs. 43,000. And most of your constituents would say, not going to be built in our lifetime. It's a $4 billion tag. And you go, ooh, $4 billion. We generate over $300 million in annual revenue to your local government, just along the corridor. Really would create 52,000 jobs. Would pay for itself in 10 years at a cost of $4 billion. And Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads would tell you, oh, that's just too steep. So even in one of our meetings we just had, I brought VDOT down and I said, in the last 10 years, VDOT, how much have you spent in Northern Virginia on new construction? They didn't want to give us the answer. You know what the answer was? $5.35 billion. What about over here? $4 billion. What about right here? What we call the Salem District. Anybody have a guess? New construction. $1 billion. Now where is the unemployment the highest? And see where the new construction for highway projects is the lowest. See where the money for highway projects is the highest, and see where the unemployment is the lowest. We constantly, Charlie Poindexter does it, Terry Austin does it, Ralph Smith does it, constantly beat the pots and pans. A hand out, a hand. Because you all know that old saying, a rising tide floats all ships. So what I'm telling you when it comes to I-73, that impact of 50-some-odd thousand jobs extends to Appomattox. It extends out here into Carroll County and westward because it's a connector from the 3 deepest ports all the way to the interior of the United States. Wilmington, Savannah, Charleston. Product coming into that area, going into the interior. The radius and the effect would be amazing. You want a jobs program, you hear about jobs programs in politics, that's a jobs program. But it only can be built if you, the localities, come together and say we need this. Because otherwise, those that have more representation, more number of senators, more number in the House, will constantly say, when I want your opinion, I'll give it to you too. Banding together, you can accomplish great things as localities. And we need to, as a state government, be willing to let you. That's what I believe. Economic development. Make a site park, don't put in the curb gutter and just go, fill those fields. Let's employ our people. But again, local empowerment is what I think is the key to the future of economic development. Local empowerment is, I think, the key to making sure that Richmond responds to you. Like they say, if a bear comes up on your tent, you all get together, you look much bigger. You'll scare the bear. Well, together, let's scare the bear. Because it's time for our turn to return economic growth, sustainability for generations to come, to be able to keep our children so they'll be very good taxpayers for us. And they'll have children and put down roots and create generational force and viability for our area. You can tell I'm a little passionate about it. I think all of us need to get together and make sure whatever our needs are heard loud and clear in Richmond. Because as much as Ralph Smith, Terry Austin, and Charlotte Poindexter, and the other, Les Adams, beat the pots and pans, there are a lot more people with pots and pans than us. We need your help. Thank you for what you do. Tell us what we can do for you. And don't take my opinion when I give it to you as what you should do. Thank you.
Next leader I'd like to recognize is Delegate Charles Poindexter. He is former Franklin County Board of Supervisor member, and I can tell you from working with him on different committees, he's up at 7:30 every morning, 7 during the General Assembly session as chairman of the County City Subcommittee, County Cities Town Subcommittee, and he's also there late nights working on compensation retirement issues where different folks are trying to put millions of dollars of mandates on the county. So Chairman Poindexter, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Wow. Sarah and Sandy, excellent presentations. Very, very good. And on behalf of the 9th House Delegate, which Franklin County, which you know where it is, that's a big part of my district. I certainly don't discount Roger over here in Patrick County, in the county, but I do live in Franklin County. And on behalf of the Board of Supervisors, I know I can speak for Charles Wagner as well. Welcome tonight. It's good to be with you. I feel a little bit like that cartoon where you see, I guess on the internet, if you have internet service, where the hunter's going through the woods and he has a big bullseye kind of painted on. Because I do sit on the House Appropriations Committee. I'm the only House Appropriations member from Lynchburg to Tennessee, out that way. And some of those meetings start early. I do chair the Compensation and Retirement Subcommittee, which affects your local governments quite a bit. I'll get into that a little bit later. But I'm also on the Government Outlay and Government Operations Subcommittee, which is taking a statewide tour this week looking at capital expenditures. And I also have the Public Safety Subcommittee. Then there's a little extracurricular activity. I do serve, since it's an agricultural area, I serve as Vice Chairman of the Agricultural Natural Resources and Chesapeake Subcommittee, which deals with all your water issues and all those type of things. And I'm very privileged to be on the Cities, Towns, and Counties Committee and chair of Subcommittee 2. And I usually run into Larry and Eric and everyone. I try to start those meetings at 7:30, but sometimes they're 7. And I've been known to conduct them at 6:30. And I have to thank that county representatives for that. They show up. Okay. Actually, most people do show up. It's quite a world, so that's why I feel like I'm a bullseye, especially with this group tonight. But I do want to tell you, you local government people and planning district commissions, you have excellent representation in Richmond. I thought I knew that when I was a supervisor. I went to VACO supervisor training and worked with VACO regularly then. And now I see that other side of the shoe. It's 2 feet, it's 2 shoes. And as far as I'm concerned, the organization does just as well as one as the other. So I compliment you on that. I want to make a few comments perhaps about the budget. And I may have a little genie out in the bowl. I don't know if I'm right or not, but this last year, actually the last 2 years, our revenue in Virginia has been down. The 2 primary sources for that. The first deals with the impact on business and individuals with the Obama jobs. That's a lot of money coming to the gym. You don't take the first fighter wing at Langley Air Force Base and reduce it from 3 to 2 or 1 squadron to lift 22s. That's a premier Cold War outfit we have in the United States. So there's just a tremendous impact, and it accumulates. Each month it gets a little worse. So our revenue, as you've seen in the info, has been down about $1.2 million the last 2 years. So when we got to do the budget this year, the leadership and the committee, we decided, okay, we're going to try to find some money because we think we have some needs that we need to meet in Virginia. They principally deal with people. So we cobbled together about $505 million, which is not much out of the $17 billion budget. We cobbled together some from various sources, professional programs, and things that government priorities, and whatever. We put that into raises for our state workforce and our state-supported local workforce. We put a lot of money to pay back and replenish the rainy day fund. We put enough money out for a teacher raise of 1.5%. That's a state part of it. We put about $130 million into physical health and mental health care. And we really worked on a retirement system. If you remember in 2010, we did not contribute what we normally would have contributed in 2010 and 2011. I was in a room, we made a gentleman and ladies agreement that we would make that up in 2018. And we put a hunk of money in it. It was $43 million in one pot, about $80 million in the other pot. So today, 4 of the 5 Virginia retirement programs are funded at the recommended level of 90%. So they're no longer unfunded liabilities there. The teachers is about 78 or 79, and I'll predict that going into next year, you're going to see us address bringing that one up as well. So that's sort of where we are on the budget. I'm going to revenue and spending side this year. You're seeing some things in the paper that maybe you think we're going to have a lot of money coming in, we're going to have a big surplus. But just remember that the basis that people calculate that is lower than it would normally be. You all kind of think, the public thinks it goes up, the base goes up every year, but no, back up about 5 years. So that's what the increase is. And oh, by the way, whatever the surplus is, the legislature, and listen, governor's corporation over the last 8 years, has pretty much decided where surplus money goes. It's preordained. Only about 5 to 10% of it is surplus is actually going to be appropriatable by the General Assembly next year. Most of it goes to the Water Quality Fund, the Rainy Day Fund, and some other pots that we've always laid out that we don't feel we can fund them enough during the regular budget, so we try to make up for that when we have a surplus to put more money into. Okay, crystal ball. There are 2 or 3 issues I'm doing on the grapevine. One deals with conservation easements. Now, you know we have controversies going on about pipelines. Well, I happen, and I think that Mr. Webb was on board at the same time, I had a transmission line. Well, the transmission line go through my district, and not much different. Nobody wants an electric line, nobody wants an electric line, and so forth. But there is becoming a sort of an orchestrated effort now, and I won't be surprised to see legislation on next year, so that if you can get property in a conservation easement and put terms in a conservation easement, that gas pipelines, electric utilities, transportation projects, and the like, public utilities, whatever, couldn't go through property that's under conservation. That may seem silly to some of you, may not to somebody, but there are people out there thinking like there's a way to stop further development, transportation, and electricity generation. Let's see. A couple more. Losing my thoughts here. I thought that one might gain your interest because that's not widely known. Food sales. I expect unlicensed, unregulated food sales legislation to come back. I sit on the agriculture subcommittee that deals with that. This is a serious movement. There's a lot of support for it. Right now, the legislature is pretty reluctant to go much further. We've eased some of the restrictions. But you know, every time there's a broccoli scare or a squash scare or whatever, Bluebell ice cream, shut down the whole operation, okay? sake, you can sell anything you want to, what's the strategy? I mean, we're bums if we do that. So I don't know what the balance is going to be, but you can expect that to come back as well. And finally, one that I think would be of interest to you, Delegate Keith Hodges carried a bill here before last, and we ended up not moving forward with dealing with enterprise zones. It was basically a total rewrite of the whole way we do enterprise zones in Virginia. We didn't bring it back last year. We didn't think we had time. I'm sort of good that we'll have that back on the table this year. So those are some I think may come, and it's always unpredictable what you're all going to get. Appreciate you being in Franklin County tonight. Great meeting, and keep up the good work, guys. Okay?
Thank you for the point next year, and thank you to the appropriators and money committees also did work to eliminate that aid to the Commonwealth, the funding that you lobbied on, the 30 million that was in there for the localities had to return, you all were able to eliminate that discussion, so we really
Yeah,
appreciate
that 30 million, it doesn't seem like a lot, but we were down to trying to find $2,000 to $50,000 to put that 500 million together to try to help our people in our local government. So
it was key to many of our members.
the whole regional delegation really stepped out of that effort. I need to note that with the other senators. Delegate Austin is on that CCT committee. It meets at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, by the way, so he's probably asleep.
We appreciate the whole delegation for that. The other, now I want to turn it over to Delegate Terry Austin, former supervisor from Botetourt County, and he serves on the County Cities and Towns Committee, Transportation Committee, and he's been a great friend of Banco and counties, and we really appreciate you being with us tonight.
Apologize, I'm elderly right now, so my throat gets dry. I'll do my best. I am Terry Austin. I represent the 19th District of the Virginia House of Delegates. That's Allegheny County, the city of Covington, greater part of Botetourt County, and over into Bogus, Bedford County. And it's really a privilege and honor to do that. I follow Delegate Putney, who served 52 years there, and it's my pleasure to be there now. Primarily my interest, I've served with Charles on cities, counties, and towns, and I really don't look forward to those early meetings as much as Charles does. I haven't missed one yet. I also served on transportation. I'm on two subcommittees of transportation, subcommittees 2 and 4. Subcommittee 4 is a subcommittee House Bill 2 went through, and House Bill 1887, the omnibus transportation bill. And we have concerns with those bills, as you do. They have to be watched and measured over time to see how agreeable they are to the funding streams, the criteria, traffic mitigation, safety. All those are issues that are, the Secretary has told me he's taking projects that have now been awarded funding, and going back and running those projects through the process to see if they would qualify for House Bill 2. And I appreciate that because I think that's an accurate measurement to see if the metrics by which the funding will be allocated will work. And if it doesn't work, we've got to go back and address that. One of my primary issues and concerns is economic development, as both senators alluded to, and Charles. Economic development in our area of the state, Southwest Virginia, it just does not meet the measures that other areas of the state have. Fortunately, you all have the Tobacco Commission, and Bedford has the Tobacco Commission. Botetourt and Allegheny and part of the valley is even greater challenge. They don't have the Tobacco Commission, so they have to rely solely on the Governor's Opportunity Fund. So if we come up $2 million short, there's not a source of revenue to go to. So we end up losing those opportunities. We lost one just not long ago to South Carolina. It was an $80 million investment, 130 jobs. And we just couldn't, we couldn't fund the project. Now, not all projects should be funded because not all projects are worthy of that funding. But the ones that should, we need those jobs. I read an article not long ago that said from Allegheny to Botetourt, Roanoke, Franklin, Martinsville, there are 1.70 million people in that region. Fairfax County has 1,080,000 people. 7 delegates in Fairfax County. I'm one delegate, I have 3 counties. So that means from my district west, we don't have as many delegates as they have in Fairfax County, or somewhat equal in numbers. So, there, as Senator Stanley said, alludes to where the money goes. Virginia Beach has 5 delegates. Fairfax has 7. That's 12 delegates. So when they lobby themselves and put themselves together, we're outnumbered. I commend Senator Stanley for I-73. I-73 continue to support that to the best of my ability. It's going to be difficult to find funding. $6 million is a lot of money. But if we don't start, we'll never find it, Senator. I commend you for that. Great effort. That can be our salvation. Economic development is what has to happen here. And the Senator's right again when he talked about Northern Virginia and Tidewater. Since I've been there for 2 years, I begin to realize that I think that economic development fell in their laps. They didn't work for that. We have to work for economic development out here. It happened because that's where big government was, and that's where the military installations were. But sequestration's sort of taking care of that somewhat. Now, there's some opportunity because we've got people with really good work ethics, we've got a high quality of life, and I think we're being identified by those measures now. And so I think we have opportunity. But we've all got to, as the other senator said, and Charles, we've got to work together because we're outnumbered. So if we don't compile ourselves, work together, and stick together, it's not going to happen. I'm real excited. There's a new gentleman, COO with Virginia Economic Development called Dan Gunderson. I worked with Martin Briley, had Martin Liz Povar, some of those in my office. Dan Gunderson came to the Roanoke region, met with a few of us not long ago, and he's very excited. And I've asked him to come to Allegheny County to look at something, and Botetourt County to look at something, to make a trip out. He's agreed to do that. So I encourage y'all, economic development, bring him out to the region. Let's get him here. Let's put his feet on the ground. So when there is a call, there's a request, and there's an interested industry, he can relate. Because I don't think it relate now. I apologize if I offend anybody, but I don't think Virginia economic development relates that well to Southwest Virginia. And I want them to relate. I want them working for us. If they don't work for us, we're not going to see results. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate the privilege to be here with you. Thank you to senators and the delegate. Thank you.
Before we turn it over to the next section agenda, I just did want to recognize 3 folks who are here representing some of our leaders in the region. And first, that would be Isaac Sarver from Senator Warner's office, and he's here and available to take questions and talk to you afterwards. So thank you, Isaac, for being here. Angie Hall, Warren Griffith's office from the 9th District Congressional Office. Thank you for being here. Your staff has been all 3 of our, you've covered our last 3 or 4 Mako regional meetings, so thank you so much for being here. And we have staff from Les Adams in the back. And can you introduce yourself too?
Richard Krause.
Appreciate your boss's leadership, and thank you for being here as well. So with that, I want to make sure we turn it over and have plenty of time to talk, and turn it over to Gary Tanner to introduce our PDCs who are going to tee up before we go into the roundtable.
Thank you, Eric. State legislators, thank you. I like hearing what you have to say, so I appreciate that. Before we get into our reports from each county about local issues they're facing and their current legislative priorities, we're going to hear from our planning district commissions about county tax rates and transportation updates. Got a little surprise. I told Ms. Adams and the county administrator I have an idea. And the gentleman sitting back there talking about I-73, I might share it with you. I called somebody that's connected with my area in the state and they hadn't called me back. So,
Call me.
I want to thank 4 PDCs from our region, the Roanoke Valley Allegheny Regional Commission, Region 2000, Gary Christie, the West Piedmont Planning District Commission, and the New River Valley Regional Commission for working together to come up with some of the facts and figures about our current tax rates in the region and to help us learn from each other about the various ways we're meeting our budgetary challenges. We've also asked the PDCs to give us a brief update on current transportation issues affecting our region. I'll now turn it over to Gary Christie, the Executive Director of Region 2000 Local Government Council. Thank you, Gary.
Evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to share some thoughts from the PDCs and what we now go by regional commissions. A brief commercial. Planning districts are created by localities under the Code of Virginia and can do a variety of things. We are the table where people come together, stakeholders meet and resolve. We build regional visions as well as provide services. In our area, the Regional Local Government Council runs the Regional Land Fair and runs a public safety taxation and transportation. And my thought is to share some thoughts with you and get some dialogue going during after the meeting about some of these ideas and concepts. That counties are ever being pushed and pressured to provide urban services and urban-like services such as paid EMS and competitive school systems. It's getting harder and harder to distinguish between cities and counties when it comes to providing services and delivery. In some cases, the unit costs for counties are higher because of less dense population, transportation costs, and the learning curve to get experience on service deliveries. Looking at the 14 counties and 5 cities in VACO Region 10 and 11, for the last 2 full years we have data, FY 13 and 14, everybody's overall expenses went up. Counties went up a greater percentage increase. Looking at education, there too, everybody's spending on education went up. The counties increased at a greater percent. State enrollment, school enrollment, which drives state funds for education, went up in the cities. However, that enrollment went down in the counties, which put even more pressure in coming up with the money to meet school requests. We are a Dillon rural community. It's not all bad because it does provide a consistent tax system, more or less, for business and residences across the state of Virginia. But it does mean that there are localities are limited in what taxes we can charge. And most of the counties are putting most of the dollars on the personal property taxes. The other things listed hardly count for 30% of what's brought in. So most, still real property is the way we bring our money in at the county level. As they do budgets, counties are faced more and more with looking to non-tax revenues, these various permits and fees, and charges for services, so that in that 13, 14, 2 years, up 5% in the counties. So who's raising real estate taxes for the new year coming up, FY16? 5 of the 14 counties and 1 of the 5 cities. Giles County is still looking at whether they'll implement it or not, but they're talking about it. Obviously, they've got enough issues that they have to talk about. So, could be at least 30%, over 30% of the counties are looking at real estate taxes. Keeping moving along with transportation, things are changing in the transportation world, in part because of what you heard earlier with how the makeup of the General Assembly is changing so that urbanized areas now have a greater number of members of the General Assembly, and it's happening to change the way we allocate our transportation funds. Two areas you need to be aware of, and you've probably heard this in other presentations, and you'll hear more of it throughout the summer, is the VTrans Long-Range Transportation Plan for the Commonwealth and HB2. The VTrans 2040 is the state transportation planning document. It is, when you have a program or a project that you want to be considered, it's going to have to meet one of the areas on the left-hand side, either a corridor of statewide significance, a regional network, or a promotion of urban development areas. It's going to have to be one of those categories, even before it goes over HB2. So the question we need to make sure gets considered is, will rural counties adequately be able to compete for these funding? Corridors of statewide significance are the big roads, the 460s, the 29s, the roads that connect regions together. The regional networks are the areas within your planning district or within your MPO, within your region, and I would encourage you to make sure that your non-MPO counties, in our case, it's Appomattox County, your non-MPO counties are included in your regional network when all the chips get settled. Urban development areas, of course, are those focused areas where locality is encouraging development through incentive or other ideas to concentrate development in a particular area. The V-Trans 2040 is encouraging the attraction, making places attractive to young talent to bring the best workers to our state and to support the movement of goods and freight. So again, your project will be first considered whether it meets one of the three topics, and then go through the HB2 screening process, which is still being fleshed out, and there are several meetings ahead. May 27th in Whitfield, May 28th in Lynchburg, and more conversations and communications will be actively sought as we pull these processes together for the FY17 transportation. It will be as early as August that the first transportation projects are encouraged and then beginning to be reviewed by October. One other thing to consider related to highways is the devolution of highway maintenance responsibility. And it hasn't come yet to counties to take care of roads, but it is real that the role of the revenue sharing is becoming more and more a way to get highway projects done in rural communities. More and more localities are asked to put money to make a road project happen. And some communities are even borrowing money to make that work. You see new layers of taxes now in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. So that transportation is changing as we find new ways of paying for it. That's my presentation. I have discussion here in
Thank you very much. My name's Larry Land. I'm with the staff of Virginia Association of Counties. I've had the pleasure of working for VACO now for 27 years. It's been quite a ride, and I want to thank everybody for allowing VACO to have me work for them. It's been a pleasure. Here at VACO, we take our jobs very seriously. We take it seriously because you, the local officials we serve, really do operate at the retail level of where vital services are provided. Therefore, we regard, or at least I would regard, what we do here as a very important public service. As part of that service, of course, what we're getting into is the phase of the year where we develop our legislative program. And we'd like to view this as a very much of a grounds-up kind of process. In the next few weeks, you will be receiving from Virginia Association of Counties a request for all counties to send us proposals that they would like for us to consider as part of our legislative program. As many of you know, we have 7 steering or policy committees. Some of them have already met or are planning to meet soon on their own. And then on August 14th, I believe the date is, we have our summer meeting, which serves the purpose of providing education. But it is an opportunity for these steering committees to meet to recommend the draft legislative program, which is against counties. And then that document is revisited when the counties who we have represented here, major issues that are of importance to you that you can start thinking of, that you might want to see as part of our legislative program, issues that you would like us to address through our process. We have about 13 minutes to do that. I guess maybe we can go a few minutes over if we have to, because we really want to hear what you say. Let me also say these meetings are so valuable to us members of the VACO staff. The remarks that we heard from the legislators tonight, we really thank you for that, because that kind of information is very, very helpful, and we really do appreciate you being here. The other presentations have been fantastic, and Gary, thank you for that fantastic presentation. I'm going to go in alphabetical order of the counties that I have listed here, and I'd just like to ask, and believe me, this is voluntary. If it is not, if this is sort of premature for you to start bringing things up at this particular time of year, that is fine. But what we're trying to do is get the ball rolling. We want you to start thinking about ways that we can assist you. So I'm going to start off with Appomattox County.
Well, I think one of the ways is exactly what you're doing tonight. I appreciate Vaco doing this with the regions. Like I said, I've got an idea. I'm going to kick it around before I present it. But one of the big things that impacted us this year, and I'm very much a conservative, but I vote for tax increases when necessary because we're here to provide services to government. That's what we do. And I take some heat when I do that, but this year I'm not voting for the whole ball of wax. And we're still messing with our tax rate with 2 of the pennies. And the penny in Appomattox is $136,000. 2 of the pennies this year is to do with Comprehensive Services Act. Vaco, I would ask you to put that down, and I mean, the judges or somebody needs to be educated before they put these kids into that system. There's got to be a way of handling them because it is enormous. And 2 pennies, you know, instead of 5 pennies, we make it 3. We're up to on that, on the Comprehensive Services Act. So that's one thing that I think we could look at. And of course, the broadband and transportation. And my idea has to do with transportation. I had to travel this past week, and I thought about it while I was riding that road. So.
Let me know if you come up with anything for
Build the transportation and the technology infrastructure all at the same time.
Yeah, we're talking.
We got a big new water tower. If you get somebody to come in and put antennas on.
Oh, yeah, we can make that.
I believe we
Really?
built it, and it's there.
Yeah, seriously, nothing on it.
Okay.
When we did the sesquicentennial, the highway department went there to the lane trying to slide it so we could get the traffic.
I just want to interject that Appomattox is doing something really cool with the schools. They've been building some fiber to connect some county offices to schools. And what they're going to do is use the bandwidth that the schools have to turn up some Wi-Fi. You have to have, the students have to have school credentials to log on, so it's just going to be for students. But it's a way to provide those students with access after hours when they don't have it at home. And it doesn't cost that much, but we did a case study on that, and it's spectacular. Everybody needs to do
Well,
that.
I may just say, if I could bring up another point. A big part of what we like to do here at Virginia Association of Counties, if there are model programs that you have adopted in your county, we want to know it at Virginia Association of Counties. And of course, that's part of the reason why we have our Award of Excellence, is basically to highlight that. And the most important part of that is that it does provide a model for other localities to emulate and learn by. That is part of the value, I think, of our organization. So
I'll send you the
I just
case
wanna
study
mention
we
that.
did on that. 'Cause it was great.
And you'll be getting more information. I think that there's a deadline for counties to submit awards of, applications for awards of excellence. Gage, when is it?
Yeah, our achievement awards deadline is June 1st.
Okay, remember that. We'd love to receive, we just want to make sure you're aware of that.
Larry, just bouncing back to CSA, that's an unfunded mandate.
Right.
And I've spoken at every board meeting I've attended in 8 years about unfunded mandates.
Right.
I know they're necessary, but I ask the state to temper them when they, and like you said, think of us, because we're the bottom of pushing back.
Absolutely. Thank you.
We have an aging population in my county, and they can't stand a whole lot more taxation.
Okay, the next county I have is Bedford County.
I don't really have anything to add. They just threw me into the lion's den recently, but anything that can be done on broadband would certainly help. We're getting ready to do our first public-private partnership on a tower, so anything in those lines would certainly help, and we could also appreciate all the help we've had through the Tobacco Commission, because our trunk line's going to be a Atlantic broadband, which is, of course, Tobacco Commission money, so just thank you.
Okay, the next county I have is Franklin County, who has been kind enough to host us here. Yes, sir.
I concur that the CSA budget is a big item. And another thing that we have a lot of problems with is through my community services is mental health and mental retardation. Need more funding for that and helping our health.
Thank you. We are taking copious notes on everything that's said here. Okay, Montgomery County.
Oh, goodness. All right, Montgomery County, as you all know, we are dependent upon Virginia Tech and Radford. Virginia Tech is going to expand. They're adding probably 500 plus students each year until they reach 10,000 more. So, and we don't know how long that will be. We also will have some great transportation needs, even though we supposedly got a very large amount of funding for some of our roads, which are wonderful, but we still need it. Now, last couple weeks ago, I was in Fairfax. I'm so glad I live in Montgomery County.
And now you know why I tell her.
Because I was so afraid of that place. But anyway, the cars are just 1, 2, 3, 4 beside you, and we're, you know, our biggest rush is when they let everybody out of Tech. For the next 2 weeks, we won't have any traffic, and the business people won't like that. But nevertheless, we do have some serious problems. We do have the pipeline. People don't want to mention that because there are parts of our state where the pipeline is a valuable asset. For us, when it goes right through the center of one of our biggest, what should we call it, communities, very expensive homes, mountainous territory, karst land, everything that's there, then people in Blacksburg and Montgomery County get a little upset with that. But anyway, we are working with those people to try to reach a good conclusion. We also have problems now. I don't know if you want to follow our model program for education, because a couple of years ago we had to raise taxes 12 cents. Now, I don't know how many of you in your counties will be able to do that, but believe it or not, it passed. 12 cents. Now, this year, 2 years ago, what we started doing was taking 2 cents of our tax money. Now, 1 penny of our tax money will give us about $700,000. So we were taking 2 cents and we're putting it in a special fund to try to build some schools and renovate some schools in Christiansburg, because that's the last part of the county that has not had any new schools, anything in terms of education. So we are putting that aside because we have said to them, we cannot borrow any more money. We can, but we are not going to, okay? So that's about where we are. Then, so the taxes are holding pretty steady because we just had the reassessment. All right. And then I wrote down some other things. You know that in Montgomery County and in Blacksburg, we have had some very serious issues involving mental health with students and with others in our county. We still are living by those tragedies that we've had, and we are having to work hard to get the kinds of things that we need for our mental health facilities. But we do have good ones. I cannot complain. The ones we have are excellent, and some that are close by are excellent. I know this is going on a little bit, but I just want to say one thing about transportation. We are doing revenue sharing This year, we put $500,000 into the revenue sharing program, and we're hoping to get another 500,000 to make it $1 million. We have many unpaved roads. We have many, many dangerous curves, and you name it, as far as those unpaved roads in our county, our rural parts. Now, that means that we had to be very tight with the budget we had. And we did have to say, I'm sorry, but we just can't fund everything. And part of ours is, again, we have the two largest towns in Virginia, or at least close to the two largest towns, Blacksburg and Christiansburg. And they can tax things that we cannot. Or if they tax them, they won't let us tax them. For instance, a cigarette tax. So the only thing that we really have is the real property. And you know that much of our property is owned by Virginia Tech or its foundation, and therefore we're not able to receive tax money from them. But it is the economic engine that drives our community right now. So thank you, that's a lot, but we all have needs and challenges. The real thing is that they're very different, and so even in our own county, we have such different challenges. Blacksburg needs things or wants things differently than Christiansburg does. And then we have two outlying districts, one called Rhino or Auburn, and the other one is Shawsville, Ellison. And so those are they have the very rural parts of our community and agricultural parts of our community. Shawsville is covered with easements, mostly. There are very many conservation easements in that area. The other end, Reiner, is now becoming somewhat of a bedroom community for Roanoke and other places because, again, it has been the dairy area, it has been the rural area, and that is gradually going away. So we have quite a diversity of people and needs in our county, but I think most every county does that has the same kinds of people and citizens that we have. But anyway, thank you. Sorry.
Well, nothing to apologize about. Thank you very much. Before I go any further, I just want to make sure that my list of counties, those counties with county officials represented here tonight is complete. I have Appomattox, Bedford, Franklin, Montgomery, Packer, Pennsylvania, Roanoke. Is there any county I'm leaving out? I want to make sure we don't get in trouble here. Okay, I've listed them all in. Okay, thank you. Packer County, do we have a record? Oh, there you are. Roger.
Yeah, we've got same issues as everyone else. Transportation, you know, we like to pave all our roads.
Right.
The gravel roads that we have, some's been in use since for 100 years, it's still not paved. So I like to have all the roads in Bedford County paved. All the DOT roads, which is about, I don't know, just 200 miles.
May I ask a question generally? Is revenue sharing the principal means by which you're getting work done on your secondary roads now? As you don't have anything really in that going 40, 30
We don't get any, I know it's.
secondary allocations?
This sheriff, yeah, this contract on it, they've got that program in place, and we get a little subsidies, you know, from the state. But, you know, jobs. My area up there was tobacco producing region. And all the southern belt here. And we were bringing in millions of dollars into the county from the sale of tobacco. You know, it's like a product you send, you know, you produce, you send it out and bring in money. Well, that's gone. And you know what happens to our textiles, our furniture factories. And now we've got to diversify, as they say, but you know, we can diversify things. We've got to bring in the kind of money that tobacco did.
Last summer, there from Southside Virginia, Northern North Carolina. And it actually named people who I've met doing this job. I thought it was very interesting. But I think of that as I listen to a lot of comments here tonight. You might want to pick it up. It's not a terribly happy book, but it is an informative book.
But I want to thank Vaco and everyone here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, George. Pennsylvania County.
Right here. I just have a couple of things I'll run through real quick. Again, I want to thank you too for having us. This has been very informative, so thank you all very much, and good to see a lot of our friends. A couple of things we've got, well, we have a challenge. Pennsylvania County is the largest county in the state, 1,000 square miles. So when it comes to broadband, that's a big problem for us. So I look forward to continuing some dialogue about that. We do have a couple of areas that really need help, and in particular comes to mind VIR, which is one of our premier racetracks, and there's nothing there. So no. So I want to continue that dialogue, please. Another thing, when it comes to economic development, and it was mentioned earlier tonight, the Berry Hill Mega Park is in Pennsylvania County, and we're at a stalemate right now, so anything that anybody can do to help us, if ACO can help us, we certainly are working with our legislators and our congressmen, but we're just at a stalemate with the park, the permitting process with the Army Corps of Engineers, and they say unless we've got a big industry that's ready to sign the dotted line that they're coming, we're not getting the permits. Well, the industry is not going to say they're coming if the infrastructure isn't there. So that's where we are. So we've been fighting that for years, and so we really do need, if anybody has any suggestions on how we can try to help.
Does that include issues like stormwater permitting and that type of thing?
Yes.
Don't get me started on that one.
Have you called Robert?
So we're dealing with.
Have you called Robert? Because
Yes.
Robert did that in Commonwealth Crossing.
Yes, but now that Commonwealth Crossing has finally, reached that point and they've gotten their permitting, I think it's hurt us even more because now they say, well, you've got Commonwealth Crossing, you're close to that. So I don't know, there's a lot of things that are holding us back, so we do need help there. And then last but not least, it's just a plug for good things when we talk about economic development. But at the Institute, we just recently, this is, with Tobacco Commission, we just recently added a section in precision machinery, took it to another level. So the pipeline of getting the students moving up to these, hopefully a big company that may eventually come to the mega site, but they can now, we already had a program in process where the high school students were attending the precision machinery at DCC, and 1 year in high school, and then in their second year, they were coming out of DCC and getting jobs with the precision machinery companies, but of course they were going to Lynchburg, Babcock, Wilcox, but at least we're producing that level. But now we're taking it to another level, and with the Gene Haas benefactor just recently at the Institute, now the students can come from BCC and go 1 more year at the Institute and be able to go into that next level of jobs at whether it's in the aerospace and the automobile industry. So we are producing the young people that can go into those next jobs, and hopefully that'll bring the jobs particularly to the mega site. But we're working at it.
Thank you. And again, please continue to communicate with us on this. This is very much a dynamic process that we're trying to manage here. It really does depend very on your communications with us. So I would encourage you to send us what you feel comfortable sending us. Okay, I think we're down to, and this is because of your position on the alphabet, that's the only reason, Roanoke County.
We'll change it back to Big River.
Well, we'll go next meeting we'll reverse it.
Of course, workforce development, she just hit on it with more hands-on jobs, economic development, transportation, and broadband, and I guess number 1 right now is CSA and Millette. Dan O'Donnell.
I think Senator Smith and Doug Point actually heard from me a couple of years ago when we talked about the state tried to essentially cap the state funds, but not cap the local funds going into CSA. We were successful stopping that, so thank you very much for that. But right now, it's actually not even legislative at this point, but the SEC, which is the Administrative Oversight Committee over CSA, has promulgated potential new rules that would allow parents to send their children for non-educational purposes to residential treatment centers, and without going through the screening through the CPMT and the FAT process, and we would pick up the bill. The local cost of that, based on last year's numbers for Humboldt County, is $177,000 additional cost. And my argument would be the services wouldn't be better. We have trained social workers and treatment people, but these cases go through and review. We get the local, most effective, most efficient treatment first, and then they go through a process if they need more treatment. So we really would like you to look at basically the authority of the SEC to promulgate these regulations. There's questions, and we have a 2 or 3 page letter we'll be sending, because they are taking comments for this rule change. But in the future, we really need to watch out for if they are overstepping their bounds, because there's a real question of whether they have authority to do that.
Have those regulations been to public comment phase?
They are in public comment phase right now, and there's about a week or 2 left for the letters to go to Secretary Hagan. And we're getting ready to send ours.
Well,
The public comment period ends on May 29th, and we're getting ready to actually submit our letter and our comments. If you all would like to look at our letter and see that early, I plan on sending it out anyways to all of our Health and Human Resources Steering Committee, and I'm going to send it out to all county administrators and probably your local liaisons as well, just so you all can see a copy of that letter. But this is a huge issue. And another issue with the SEC, I don't want to go on too long here, but for a long time, we have felt that before the public comment period, the first time we would be seeing proposed policies would be when they voted to put them out for public comment, and no vetting or inclusion before them. And so that's another thing that we're going to be working on beyond this proposed policy, because we have a financial stake in that. And that's, CSA is something that's a lot of money out. It doesn't have a lot of, it's complex, it doesn't have a lot of easy answers. And so that's something that is currently, was on our VACO platform last year. I'm sure it's going to be right there again on our VACO legislative platform again this year. Certainly appreciate the legislators who have worked with us on that as well. But if you have any questions, you give me a call on that. My card is over on the table.
And I'll just say that anytime we as staff might draft comments in response to a proposed regulation or anything like that, we always want to make sure that the final copy of those comments is posted so you have access to it. You should definitely know what is communicated to state and federal agencies on your behalf. That's basically what we're doing. Last year we submitted comments, for example, on a EPA proposal dealing with the definition of waters of the U.S., which is a big issue for families. So I just want you to be aware of that. I think we have gone through all the counties, but it appears to me we have more comments to make, which is fine.
Go ahead, Squad.
One more thing is I-73 is right on top of our agenda too for Karen.
There's 2 ways.
Don't forget 58.
Charlie had everyone here. Delegate Poindexter.
The topic is local school division and local employees joining the state health insurance program. Okay, opting in to participate in the health insurance part. Okay, in other words, your school teachers or whatever, your local employees or whatever, that are not currently employed. That's it. We've had this bill for 2 years now. 2 years ago, the state Human Resources Department sent questionnaires out to everybody, all the local governments, all the towns and counties and cities, and all the school boards, and they didn't give it like 10 or 13%. Didn't give me enough information. That bill comes to my subcommittee, I'm in that bullseye. And I got hit a little bit last year. Everybody thinks that because you add a lot more people to the health program, then the rates are going down, the premiums are going down for the local government, as well as for the employees of the school divisions in the counties. I don't have the numbers to show that's true, because it's possible only these local organizations with real high expenses and real sick people would join the program. It might cost more. So until I have that data, I'm not too willing to push that bill through. Okay. So what I'm saying to you is, if you get a question from Virginia Department of Human Resources about whether you would like to join the state, your employees join the state health program, please answer, so we know, have a better idea on how to proceed with the legislation. Okay.
Thank you.
Let me just add on to that. We're working with the Department of Resource Management, the HRM, because of this very issue, to get it out. It came from further Southwest Region 12 and 13. That was a big push in their legislative meeting.
Right.
And we worked actually in the past with Delegate Poindexter and others to oppose the bill originally, because it would just allow the school systems to decide to do this and make your local county plans more expensive. The bill has evolved so that now it would be the school system and the board of supervisors have to both say they want this, and it'd be a local choice. But like the delegate mentioned, he's been good to say, they put some money into a study, take a look and see how this is really going to affect the state and us. So we're in concert trying to get that. So we at Baker will also send that out.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments?
Yeah, the AC went on.
I think that's a signal that maybe the event is going on. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for coming. This has been a great meeting.
Since you're free in the morning,